So in the middle of a series called Psychology 101, and it's because I've been riding a bike for about 18 years. Someone used another word this morning. Not psychology, but psychopath is what they used. Jinx, that's too loud of a laughter right there. Too loud of a laughter. Psychopath, psychology. So I've been riding a bike for about 18 years. 2008 is when I entered into this world of cycling. And the first message of the series was the beginning, how I got into that. And a guy named James invited me to go. And so I went and decided this is something I wanted to do and just jumped in. And so since 2008, I've been riding pretty seriously. But most of the time, the rides that I did were solo rides. Every now and then I would ride with a group or ride with 2 or 3 people, but overwhelmingly, probably 90 to 95% of the rides were solo. I would go out by myself and I would ride and do the training and I would have goals. I want to go do this ride. I want to go do that ride. And so I would train for those rides, but they were individual solo rides in the training aspect. I moved to Lubbock in 21, became pastor here. I moved to Lubbock, and one of the things in my mind was I wonder if I'm going to be able to still ride. Because what I was not going to do is ride in the city. Because I know some of you are the drivers in the city, and I'm like, I'm not riding the roads in Lubbock, Texas. I didn't know what that looked like. And I normally rode solo, and didn't know the routes, didn't know what I would do. I just knew that probably city was not where I was going to ride. And I heard about some groups that were riding. And one was we called it the LP&L, Lubbock Power and Light, across from the parking lot. And I went and rode with them for a while. Then that group kind of disbanded. But that was an easier ride. The group took an easier pace. And I enjoyed that. But there was another group that rode called the Chisholm Trail Group. And it was known as a drop ride. What does that mean? That means if you can't stay with them, they're dropping you. That's what that means. A drop ride is they're going to drop you. They're going to drop you if you can't hang. And so I'm like, well, I don't know if I want to do that. Some of it was ego because I knew I would be dropped. And I was like, well, and so one day I went out on a ride with them by pure accident. And they dropped me. Yep, they dropped me. But it wasn't as bad as I thought. It's like, well, maybe I'll go and ride again with them. And that's kind of how I got into this group. And so now I ride with this group, not every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, but a lot of the times I'm out there. And so now most of my rides are group rides. I get dropped every now and then. I'm still the weakest of the group. And they let me come. They show compassion and love, say, well, you can come. I guess, but they let me, and so that's all. By the way, I'm a better cyclist today because of the group. Because they encourage me, they challenge me, they're pushing me for sure, or dragging me, one or the other. But I am better today because I decided to go get in a group and ride with others. Find your tribe. Find your tribe. That's true if you're a cyclist and you want to improve your riding, find a tribe. But it's also true in life. It's also true as a Christ follower. It's also true if you have Christ as your Savior and you want to follow Him and your life be transformed, find your tribe. Find a group. By the way, there's no secret in that. God does not hide that. In fact, if you look in the scriptures, it's like written for us to find. Find your tribe. We're told, first of all, that groups are better than individuals. Groups are better than individuals. We find that in Ecclesiastes, like right in the middle of your Bible. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, here's what the writer says in verse 9, 2 are better than 1 because they have a good reward for their efforts. For if either falls, his companion can lift him up. But pity the one who falls without another one there to lift him up. Also, if 2 lie down together, they can keep warm. But how can one person alone keep warm? And if someone overpowers one person, two can resist him. A cord of three strands is not easily broken. I mean, the first sentence tells us that groups are better than solo. Two are better than one. There is a reward for your effort. There's a reward, a benefit for doing life together. Two are better than one. And then the writer says, I want to give you three examples of how this is true. First, if one falls down and you're in a group, there's the other one that's going to be there to pick him up. Confession time. I've had a few crashes on the bike. And I've been told from the time I started, it's not if you crash, it's when you crash. You ride enough, you're going to crash. And so I've had a couple of crashes, but I've had two major crashes. And I still have, well, I don't have road rash anymore. I did, but I still have some scars from both of those crashes. One of those crashes, it was a solo ride. The other crash, I was in the group. Can I just tell you, it was better, I know more humiliating to crash in the group, but then to crash by yourself. But when I crashed by myself, hard crash, it was me that had to get up and find my way. I had to walk about a half a mile to my truck. Couldn't ride it. I had to walk a half a mile. When I was with a group, they stopped. They checked on me. They said, are you okay? Actually, they brought a truck to pick up my bike, and they picked up me as well. Two's better than one. If you fall down, there's going to be someone there to help you back up. There's going to be someone there to check on you, someone there to encourage you, someone there to lift you up. Two's better than one. The second example is two can lie down and keep warm. And it's just a basic body heat fact. And I was trying to think this. When Solomon wrote this, they didn't have heaters in the home. I don't know how many blankets they had. I don't know, but they knew something, that two can lie down and keep warm. Body heat's important here. And there's some synergy going on. I'm helping you, you're helping me, and we're helping each other. That's true in cycling. If you ride in a group, there's many benefits and much synergy that can take place. But I just want to mention one. It's this thing called drafting. Drafting. And by the way, if you're the weaker one in the group, you're glad you can draft. There's physics involved. By the way, you can draft in a foot race. You can draft in a horse race. There's drafting going on in NASCAR. And there's drafting going on in cycling. Now, instead of me trying to explain this to you, I found a video that does it a whole lot faster and better than I could do. So I think this narrator has a little bit of an accent, so get ready. I don't know if he's from England. I don't know. But let's watch this short clip on drafting.
How important is drafting in cycling? We've all heard about the benefits of drafting in cycling, but what is it and why is it important? In summary, closely following the wheel of another rider requires less effort for the same speed than that of the cyclist in front of you. The principles are pretty straightforward. The rider in front punches a hole in the wind, creating a pocket of air for you to happily fly through. The benefits are so great that the power demand of a rider sitting directly behind can be reduced by up to 40% to ride at the same speed as the rider in front. As you would expect, the effect of drafting reduces the further away you get from the cyclist in front, but there's still plenty of benefit to be had. Riding 3 bike lengths behind a cyclist's wheel can reduce your power demand by up to 20%, and even riding 10 meters behind can still result in a significant energy saving. Surprisingly, drafting not only helps the rider sitting on, but also the rider on the front. This is because the rider behind fills a space that would otherwise be filled with the turbulent, swirling air generated by the rider in front. Smoothing the air behind reduces its sucking effect on the rider in front and can result in an energy saving of up to 4%. In a nutshell, 2 people who are drafting can put out less energy than 2 individuals who are not drafting would if they were covering the same distance in the same time.
Okay, too much physics. I know, too much physics. But if you're riding with a group and you experience drafting, you're like, this is better than riding alone. Do you get it? 40% energy savings if you're riding behind someone. There's synergy that's going on. And by the way, if you're in a bigger group, I don't know if Mike knows this, but the Tour de France starts Saturday. And I know all of you are going to be checking in because it's the most riveting sports event there is. And the first event, so Saturday, July 4th in Barcelona, Spain. I don't know why they call it the Tour de France and start in Spain. That's a whole other topic. But it's a team trial, a time team trial run. They ride as a team. And you're riding as a team, you get the drafting effects. But, you know, they actually position the players in the line according to strengths and weaknesses. I have a picture up here that they can do. So they put the stronger riders intermixed between the weaker riders. Why? You're helping one another. That's true in life. There's synergy happening when we are doing life together. You help me, I help you. We draw strength from one another. So, if one falls down and you're in a group, there's someone to help pick you up. Two can lie down and keep warm. One doesn't have that benefit. And the last one is this. If you go to war, have someone with you. If you go to a fight, have someone who's going to watch your back. That's so true in riding as a group. I didn't realize this until I started riding with a group. I think my first or second ride with the group, someone came and says, I think your seat's too low. It's like, okay. I think your saddle's too far back. And so I couldn't see that. I mean, when I'm riding, I'm like, okay, is this too low? Is my seat too high, too low? But others could see it, could see my blind spots. You know, you have blind spots. And when you're doing life with others, they can see your blind spots that you can't see. You can see theirs. And together, just two's better than one. So right off the bat, we have kind of a foundation built for us that two's better than one. Doing life together is better than doing life alone. In addition to that, though, we have a model for us to follow. We have an example given to us. You fast forward to the book of Acts, and the church is born. And when the church is born, we see a quick snapshot of life in church. So if we go all the way to the book of Acts, chapter 2, here's the snapshot. In Acts chapter 2, verse 42, they, the church, the believers, the followers of Christ, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, and look at this word, and to the fellowship, that's to one another, to the breaking bread, and to the prayer. Everyone was filled with awe, and many wonders and signs were being performed through the apostles. Now, all the believers, look at this, they worked together. They held all things to God in common. They sold their possessions, property, distributed the proceeds to all. There's synergy happening as anyone who had need. Every day they devoted themselves to meeting together. Here's another together word, in the temple. They broke bread from house to house. They ate their food with joyful and sincere hearts, praising God, look at this phrase, and enjoying the favor of all the people. And every day the Lord added to their number those who were being saved. They did life together. You weren't a Christian, you weren't a follower of Christ, and then you went off and lived it on your own. No. If you were a follower of Christ in the New Testament day, it was accustomed and assumed you're going to do life with other followers of Christ. Now, you go back to Luke's day in Jerusalem, or go to Philippi or Corinth, Christians were the minority. If you decided to follow Christ, you had the rest of the town not following Christ against you. Whether it's Jews and Judaism, or whether you were in a Greek culture and you had all these other gods and paganism going on, and you were a Christ follower. And since you had a priority to follow Christ and there's a value for you to follow Christ, you found other people who were Christ followers, and there was a bond already there. You joined together, you did life together because there was a common bond amongst you. The rest of the community was not for you, but you found some others who were for you that you could do life with. I love the model that's set for us. We have an example set for us. So in Ecclesiastes, we have just a foundation. Two's better than one. Doing life together is better than doing life alone. In Acts chapter 2, we have a picture for us to follow of the church coming together, doing life together as a Jesus follower. And then, in addition to that, we have principles given to us. We have a command. And the command from the book of Hebrews says this: And let us watch out for one another to provoke love and good works. Here's the phrase, not neglecting to gather together. Do not forsake the assembly of the brethren. That's what it says in the King James. As some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging each other all the more as you see the day approaching. Not neglecting coming together. There's a command there. Don't forsake this. And don't forget about this. You put it as a priority. You put it as just a principle you live by. Do life with others. Do life with others who follow Christ. So we have a foundation built. Two's better than one. We have an example set for us, the church. We have a command given to us, don't forsake the assembly. And then we have principles given to us. Paul, most of them are from Paul's letters. He gives us all these one another principles. I've got 19 here for you. Now, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on any of the 19. I just want you to see them. What this is parameters, guidelines to help us live and do life together. So here we go. We're going quickly. Be at peace with one another. Honor one another. Live in harmony with one another. Stop passing judgment on one another. Build up one another. Welcome one another. Instruct one another. Have the same concern for one another. Serve one another in love. Bearing with one another in love. We are all members of one another. Be kind. Here's 3 in 1, by the way. Be kind to one another. Compassionate to one another. Forgiving one another. Submit to one another. Bearing with one another. Forgiving one another. Encourage one another. Live at peace with one another. And always try to be kind to each other. Consider one another. Provoke one another to love and good deeds. Encouraging one another. Do not slander one another. Do you think there's enough principles in there? Why? Because doing life together with others is hard. You know why it's hard? Because people are hard. People are imperfect. Everyone except you. That's why it's so hard. Because if they were perfect like you, it'd be great. But these principles are in place to help you live life and do life with one another because it's just hard. It's not by accident that Paul gives us all these principles, one another principles to do life. Why? Because if we're going to do this, there are going to be some challenges and difficult times. You're going to need them. Paul in Philippians chapter 2 just gives us a summary, I think, of all these 19 principles. He says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility consider others as more important than yourselves. By the way, if we live out that principle, that helps a lot, living life with others. Consider others more important than yourselves. Everyone should look not only to his own interests, but rather to the interest of others. So see how this plays out? We have a foundation built for us. 2 are better than 1. Do life together, not alone. We have an example set for us in Acts chapter 2 of the early church doing life together, enjoying the favor of the people. We have a command given to us in the book of Hebrews, do not forsake the assembly of the brethren. Do not neglect gathering together with others. And then we have principles given to us so that it will help us in this thing we call life and doing life with others. It's not easy. Sometimes it's easier just to go ride by yourself. But it's better to ride with others. Sometimes it's easier just to isolate yourself. You know what you have to do when you isolate yourself? You don't have to deal with people. But it's better if you choose to do life with others. There's a synergy that's happening. You go into a fight, you want them to have your back. You go back to Paul's day, and you go to Corinth or Laodicea or Philippi or Thessalonica, you go to all these different cities, and you had a church, but I'm just telling you had one church. You didn't have 14 churches on 14 blocks. No, you had one. You had one. And if you were going to be involved and plugged into a church, there was just one choice. And since that day, we kind of have diversified. It started, I guess, at Reformation. Martin Luther, he went and he nailed 95 excuses, 95 reasons that the Catholic Church needed to look at. Now, his design was not to split from the church. His purpose of doing that was to cause us to have a conversation about some things that were going on in the church and hopefully come to a resolution. Now, that didn't happen. And so what happened was that they broke away from the church. And so now you had this Protestant Reformation. And then from there, you had other denominations form. And most of the denominations formed over beliefs and practices. And so you have all these different denominations. They have a little bit different beliefs and some did different practices, and they formed. Some churches formed just because they were upset at some things going on in the church and like, well, we'll just go start our own church. And so we're here today, and we have a church on every corner, and you're like, okay, join the fellowship with all the believers. Where do I start? Now, I would say a couple of things. One is find out what they believe and what they practice. But when you find that place that you can call home, commit to it. Commit to it. Stick to it. Now, what happens a lot of times, I'm going to tell you 3 options people take when challenges come up. Maybe there's disagreements that come up. The first way people have handled this is when there's disagreements that have come up, they get up and they go find another church. Now, sometimes that's called for. I would say this, if God is in the leading, then you follow the leadership of God. But a lot of times, it's just, I got upset, I'm just not going to go, and they'll go find somewhere else. And they do that, I'm convinced, they do that too quickly. I'm just telling you, you do life with people, they're going to upset you from time to time. You know how I know that? Pastor for 30 years, I've seen it. And I don't know if I want to share this, but I'm going to share it. I've done the upsetting sometimes. Unintentionally. Maybe sometimes intentionally. I don't know. I'm not perfect, and I do the upsetting. And so when that happens, and I've seen it happen, some folks will say, well, I'm just going to go somewhere else. And if God's in the leading, then you go. I know we have some folks here that have come from other churches, but God was in that leading, and we're going to say, if God's leading, and God's leading you here, welcome home. But perhaps God's not in the leading, and God is saying, go back and try to reconcile. Go back and try to work out. Don't, at the first sign of trouble, just skip town. They get up and go find another church. The second way they handle this is they don't leave, but they don't address the issue. What happens here is we're going to stay put. We're just going to wreak havoc wherever we can here. We're going to gossip and we're going to slander. We're going to talk bad about folks. We're going to, did you hear about so-and-so? And we're not going to go to that person and address the issue. We're not going to go and say, hey, can we talk about this? No. We're just going to stay put. This is my church, but I'm going to cause a whole lot of division here. First of all, that's not honoring to God. It's not biblical. It's not honoring to God either. To divide God's church, not a good thing. But here's the third thing is address it. Address the issue. Now, Matthew 5, Matthew 18 is our guidelines here. If you know someone has something against you, go to them. If you have something against someone, go to them. Don't bring anybody else first. You just go talk to them. And maybe you can reconcile. Maybe you can be at peace. Maybe there can be unity in the camp. But address it. And if it can be reconciled, that's goal number 1. And Paul says in Romans, if it's all possible, be at peace with everyone. So sometimes it's not possible. But you at least try. You at least make that attempt. If we all did this, the church unity would be a huge success and less division. Find a tribe. If you're a Jesus follower, find a tribe. Translation, find a church. A church you can serve in, plug into, and worship. And when you're trying to find a church, find one that's making much of God. there are churches out there that try to make much of themselves. And look at us and look at what we're doing and look at. If the focus is on them and not God, hopefully something inside, there's a check going on in your spirit. Find a church that is making much of God. There are churches out there that doesn't make much of themselves per se, but they try to make much of the individual, you in the pew. And you in the pew is important, by the way, but not the object of our worship and the one we should follow. Find a church that's making much of God, where that when you can come together and you can worship together, you can be encouraged. I'm so glad of our team here at Bacon Heights and what they do week in and week out. And I just tell you, when Mark stands up on Sunday morning, he's in an attitude of leading us into the presence of God to worship him. And tell you what, it's not about Mark. Mark will tell you it's not about Mark. It's not about the instruments. It's not about the songs. It's about our Savior. Some of you, and I'm in this camp, some of you are not moved as much through the music as others. And probably that's okay, because everyone's wired up differently. And some might say, well, I'm not moved by the music. It doesn't do much for me. You know what? You still come together and worship. Why? It's not about you. And there have been many times I've been sitting here singing, but when my daughter's here, I'm telling you what, she connects with music to connect with her God. And when I just see her, I'm encouraged. There's one Sunday, I was sitting down here, we were singing The Goodness of God, and Angie Wood was right over here. And she was singing to the loudest she could sing. And I looked over at Angie, you know what? That's why you do life together, because that encouraged me and challenged me. I also see Cindy Andrews up in the balcony. I see Gib Weaver over here. That's why you worship. Even what music doesn't, it's not about you. It's about the family. Amen. Worshiping God. And the preaching, I can tell you this. I stand up every week. My prayer is that you see God every week. If you see me, something went wrong. If you leave this place and you say, preacher, that was a good sermon, and that's it, something went wrong. If you leave this place and you say, I met God in this space, that's the goal. Amen. Find a church, makes much of God, where worship is real and authentic and genuine, and where the preaching leads you into an encounter with God. But I'll tell you, the secret sauce of finding a church and a tribe, the worship is great and the preaching we hope is great, but the secret sauce is in small groups. You know what? In small groups, you can love and be loved and serve and be served, and you can celebrate and be celebrated, and you can know and be known. That happens in a smaller group than in a bigger group. Man, that's right. Small groups is the secret sauce of connecting and serving and loving. My son, by the way, he doesn't connect with music either. He goes. And I don't know if he even really connects with the preaching. He goes. But the small group is where he's found it at. He goes to a church in Amarillo. He's been going to this church for years now. And before he found a small group, if he was here on Saturday night, he was with us on Sunday morning. We don't ever see him on Sunday morning anymore, because he's got to get back to the church. And their small groups don't even meet on Sundays. It's like, well, couldn't you? No, I got to go see my people in my small group. They meet during the week, and they rotate houses, and they've said, we'll open up our house. So once a month, they open up their house, and their small group comes. Many Friday nights or Saturday nights, they'll have people from their small group over, and they'll grill and they'll cook out. I heard this story. I just thought this was an awesome story. So one of the families in their small group has a 10-year-old boy, son. And so Jeff asked him, said, hey, do you want to mow my yard? I'll pay you, and you got to give half of it to your brother who can't mow yards yet. And so this 10-year-old came and, can I just tell you, just honestly here, he wasn't old enough to mow a yard. My son had to go and actually mow some of the yard that he missed. But you know what? You do that when you're in a small group. Last week, this 10-year-old went and played golf. And his brother, I don't know how old his brother is, but he went and played golf too. And the dads were supposed to be caddies. And so the dad was the caddy for the 5-year-old, 6-year-old, I don't know, the younger kid. Needed a caddy for the 10-year-old. Guess who he asked to be a caddy? So my son went to caddy for this 10-year-old. That's life in a small group. That's the secret sauce. Find a tribe.